Hello students, I am your instructor Dr. Shailja Sharma from Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management, Noida. We are discussing the course on destination management. We bring this course to you as a part of e-Pathshala initiative of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India to make postgraduate education accessible to all. In the last module, we discussed how a travel decision is arrived at and how a destination is chosen. In this module, we will carry forward the discussion to tourist behavior at a destination. We will begin with the discussion on the concept of tourist behavior. This will lead us to understanding the various types of tourist and traveling styles. Finally, we would talk about the factors influencing tourist behavior and their role in destination development. The term tourist behavior is a relatively new term used in tourism psychology. It is closely related to the concept of consumer behavior, which is about understanding how people make decisions when buying a certain product or a service. Tourist behavior is being studied extensively in tourism research to know the decisions, motivations, and attitudes of tourists which go behind selecting any destination for travel. With the diversification of tourism products, increased travel by tourists of all age groups, improved tourism marketing strategies, cutthroat marketing competition, and ever-changing needs of tourists, the need for study on tourism behavior has increased many folds. The behavior of tourists at destinations acts as important sources of information for the tourism industry to develop and plan a destination for its future tourists. They help the marketer in understanding the needs and wants of all types of tourists and aids in destination planning. Tourist behavior is the way in which tourists behave according to their attitudes before, during, and after traveling. It is closely related to consumer behavior, which is described as the behavior of consumers in terms of their decisions and activities which are used in buying products and services. Knowledge of tourist behavior is very essential in today's scenario as it helps to know a tourist travel patterns, motivations, decisions, choices of destinations, etc. Such information can be used by destination leadership to increase the number of visitors to a destination, thereby facilitating destination development. In recent times, a lot of emphasis is being placed on understanding tourist behavior as it helps to create tourism demand. With the help of tourism demand, numerous marketing strategies have also been developed and implemented, and there is scope for further research on tourist behavior at various destinations. Let us now spend some time understanding the concept and importance of tourist behavior, factors influencing tourist behavior, and their role in destination development and planning. The term tourist behavior is defined as the behavior of tourists in terms of their attitudes, motivations, decisions, etc. before, during, and after traveling. It includes decisions, attitudes, and activities and experiences which are involved in buying and consuming tourism products and services. It also includes decisions that are taken before and after traveling. For the tourism sector to flourish, it is imperative that researchers and analysts understand tourist decisions and in turn understand tourism trends and ultimately help in development and planning of a destination. The figure on your screen depicts the conceptual map for understanding tourist behavior. The behavior of tourists in general is shaped due to a number of factors like individual characteristics of a tourist, social, situational, and environmental factors, tourist motivations and social contact between tourist and host at a destination. All these factors interact on a continuous basis and give rise to attitudes in a tourist, which basically gives rise to behavior of the tourist. Among all these factors, travel motivations from the most important psychological influences of tourist behavior. Motivations are needs and wants of a tourist. The tourist may want to escape monotony of daily life, relax at a peaceful resort without any work, stress, travel to visit family and friends, attend a business conference in another country, explore an unknown destination out of curiosity, and so on. It is very important to mention here that all tourists will not exhibit the same type of behavior, and hence types of tourists should be discussed whenever possible. These help to know what products, services and facilities should be offered to certain tourists having the same behavior. Be it the organized mass tourist or the explorer or allocentric tourist, each type of tourist will have different attitudes to travel and have different traveling styles. Hence, their decisions and behavior will also be different. Marketers and tourism planners need to consider these typologies to guide their marketing, planning, development and management functions. The information on tourism behavior matters most to decision makers of tourism sector. They may be people in the public sector who provide permit to tour operators or make policies of certain destination to marketers in the private sector who will think about factors which influence tourists to visit destination A, B or C. There can be business decision makers who have interest in design and financial success of tourism products, to lobby groups who have interest in issues such as fees and taxes on activities. Occasionally, the local community, media and even the tourists themselves are interested if tourists are creating some impacts, positive or negative, and find information on tourist behavior useful. The decision to travel has been recognized and multifaceted rather than a single-step process, as shown in the graphic. Clausen and Netsch have identified a 5-phase process in their recreational behavior model. The first stage of anticipation involves recognition of the needs to travel and research for information on the destination which are done before travel. Next stage is travel to the site, which includes range of experiences which are encountered through various modes of travel. The third stage of behavior on the site is the actual behavior of the tourist, influenced by a number of factors like accommodation, interaction with locals, amenities available at the destination and activities undertaken by the tourist as part of recreation. Fourth stage is traveling back home. Finally, recollection is the post-purchase phase, which involves recalling memories of the trip, be it positive or negative. Recollection phase will play a major role in deciding the next trip. We must understand that tourist behavior is important in destination development and planning. The importance of tourist behavior can be explained through the following points. To know characteristics of tourist behavior can help in knowing various characteristics of a tourist like age, gender, educational qualification, marital status, occupation, nationality, etc. To understand reasons for visiting a region, there can be a variety of reasons for visiting a destination. A tourist could be traveling to attend a business meeting, to relax and rejuvenate, to escape monotony of everyday life, to socialize with friends, to explore an unknown destination, to understand the culture of the tribal group, etc. To know activities and experiences undertaken by tourists, the actual activities and experiences undertaken by tourists can help to know their tourist behavior. The tourists could go for adventure activities at the destination like zipping, cable car ride, paragliding, etc. She could opt for a cultural tour at small village and decide to stay at a homestay instead of a luxury hotel. All these things can be used to analyze in promoting in development of a destination. To gather information sources used by visitors, tourists decide to visit a destination using a number of information sources, be it through personal references, advertisements in both print media, visual media, electronic media, articles on destinations, travel websites and companies, etc. To understand the process that goes in destination decision making, analyzing tourist behavior can help to understand the different processes that go into the mind of a tourist when deciding about a destination. Be it his or her pre-purchase thoughts, influenced by friends and family, advertisements and offers about the destination, and so on. To facilitate marketing and product planning, the way tourists behave can help to understand their traveling style and patterns. These can be used to market a destination and plan out different tourism products according to the patterns and styles of travel. To have improved marketing strategies, when tourist behavior is studied in depth, tourism trends are found out which can help in planning out improved marketing strategies for a destination. To get enhanced service delivery approaches, understanding the behavior of tourists can result in tourism suppliers providing enhanced service to the tourists, be it in terms of better accommodation facilities, comfortable means of transportation, better amenities at the destination, etc. So students, it is important to understand the type of tourists and their traveling styles. Tourists can be classified according to the tourist bubble, that is, they live in tourist bubble. Means a similar living environment which a tourist stays surrounded by when traveling outside the usual place of residence. One of the first ways to understand the tourist was the Cohen's classification. Professor Cohen in 1972 mentioned 4 different types of tourists. First, the organized mass tourist. This type of tourist is least adventurous and likes to stay within an environment bubble. She does not like to try unusual activities at a destination. They book their travel arrangements in advance through travel agents. They have no control on their travel plan. Second, the individual mass tourist. This type of tourist is similar to the organized mass tourist, but their tour is not entirely fixed by the travel agent. They have some control on their trip and itinerary, but the arrangements are still done by the travel agent even in this case. Third, the explorers. This type of tourist organizes travels tours on his own and seeks novelty and new experiences when traveling. They seek comfortable accommodation and transportation as desired by organized mass tourists and individual mass tourists, but they dare to leave their environment bubble. And fourth, the drifters. This type of tourist plans a trip wholly on his own and likes to go away from his environment bubble. They want to travel in a way that is totally different from that of a usual tourist. They have no fixed itinerary and like to mix with the local people of the destination. The other very popular way of looking at the tourist is the Stanley Bloch's classification of tourists. Look at the graph on your screen. The famous sociologist Stanley Bloch classified tourists according to personality differences. These are the allocentric tourists. This type of tourist shows a strong preference for something new which he or she has never experienced before. They are outgoing and self-confident. They do not like regular accommodation and facilities like food used by the other tourists. They will consume local food, stay in a local hut. They look for activities which are full of thrill and excitement. The psychocentric tourist, this is the second classification. This type of tourist is motivated by his inner self. They do things which they have already experienced and like to return to familiar destinations. They are conservative and unadventurous. They prefer consistency and familiarity while traveling. They go for comfortable accommodation and have food in selected restaurants. The mid-centric tourist, this type of category is the third category of tourist which is not extremist. They neither prefer a lot of novelty nor a lot of familiarity in the experiences that they seek. They adjust according to situations. In reality, tourists with such extreme travel styles are not found in large numbers. That is why Bloch described 2 other categories of tourists. These are near-allocentrics. They are tourists who do not fully expose themselves as allocentrics but still behave majorly like allocentrics. Near-psychocentrics is the second category. These are tourists who do not fully expose themselves as psychocentrics but still behave majorly like psychocentrics. Students, you must also understand the factors influencing tourist behavior and their role in destination development and planning. First are the social factors. Social factors are one of the most important factors contributing to the formation of tourist behavior. It explains the influence of outside influence of others on our travel decisions directly or indirectly. These include reference groups, membership groups, aspirational groups, dissociate groups, and opinion leaders. Membership groups are those which have a direct influence on the tourist. Aspirational groups are the ones in which a person would like to belong. Dissociate groups are the ones which tourists will reject. Reference groups will also include opinion leaders who can influence others because of their special skill, knowledge, etc. These are the groups to which a tourist belongs and will influence him. These groups could be related to the tourist in terms of social origin, age, place of residence, work, hobbies, leisure, etc. They can help form a person's attitude and behavior, and their impact varies depending on the tourism product service chosen. For example, if it is about buying an international flight ticket, the impact of a reference group would be huge as compared to buying a domestic train ticket to a close nearby destination. Family. A family may include a spouse, children, parents, relatives, etc. The family is the most influencing factor for a person. It is the group where an individual evolves, shapes his personality and values, and also develops attitudes. Travel decisions are majorly influenced by family members. For example, a wife's travel decision will be majorly influenced by her husband's attitudes towards a certain trip and vice versa. Tourism marketers will try to target the influencer in this case. Now the next factor is social rules, the initiator, the influencer, the decision maker, the buyer. There can also be some social rules which can affect attitudes and motivations of a traveler. The initiator will be a person who will suggest a destination or a trip. Similarly, the influencer will be one whose advice and point of view will influence the traveling decision of a person. The decision maker will be the one who will decide which service or product is to be bought, and the buyer will be the one who ultimately buys the tourism product or service. The next factor is social status, class, upper middle class, working class, lower class. Social status or social class also contributes to shaping tourist behavior. These are groups which are more or less similar in terms of wealth, power and prestige and ranked against each other according to social hierarchy. The buying behavior of a tourist individual will depend on his social class. For example, a tourist from the lower class will be more focused on price as against a tourist from upper class who will also be focused on quality, features, etc. The second set of factors are the individual characteristics of a tourist. The individual characteristics of a tourist can be divided into 5 categories. 1. Age and family life cycle. Age and family life cycle of a tourist are one of the most important factors which shape up characteristics of a tourist. A tourist will not be the same at 20 and 70 years of age. His values, environment, its activities, hobbies, etc. keep evolving over time, and consequently his behavior will also have a changing effect. Family life cycle can be divided into subcategories like young couples, married couples, unmarried couples, etc. And tourism marketers can use these distinctions to develop and diversify a product service. Example, a young couple would most likely prefer an adventurous destination as compared to a married couple with kids. Similarly, tourist behavior will also depend upon whether a tourist is single, in a relationship, married with kids, region of the country, and kind of city he lives in, large, small or countryside. 2. Lifestyle. Lifestyle includes activities, interests, values and aspirations of a tourist. It is the way a tourist lives in a society. These things will influence behavior and purchase decision of a tourist. Example, a tourist living a luxury lifestyle will most probably prefer 5-star hotels, have food in their well-renowned restaurants and buy business class flight tickets. 3. Occupation. Occupation of a tourist will also impact the buying behavior of a tourist. Example, an inbound tourism manager will buy a pre-arranged package tour for his business trip, whereas a student will plan a trip on his own and go backpacking. 4. Personality. Personality is the set of traits and characteristics of a tourist formed by the interaction of psychological and physiological characteristics and leads to constant behavior. Traits could be confidence, charisma, adaptability, shyness, openness to others, etc. Example, a shy tourist might not interact a lot with local people of a destination as compared to a confident, open tourist who might like to meet and interact with new people. 5. The self-concept. It is the image a tourist individual would like to have of himself, herself. Example, an adaptable tourist will be tolerant to basic facilities available at a destination at a remote offbeat destination, whereas a tourist who is very conservative and rigid might not prefer a certain destination due to lack of amenities. Another important set of factors are the situational and environmental variables affecting tourist behavior. Travel motivations were basically factors affecting tourist behavior internally. Now you can move on to situational and environmental variables which completely external and out of control of a tourist but will impact how they behave, their behavior when they visit a destination. These are political situation and terrorism. If a certain destination is politically unstable and threatened by terrorist activities, tourists will not be motivated to visit that destination. Tourists will avoid such destinations even if they are worth visiting and offer safer destinations. Example, the pyramids of Egypt are very popular with the tourists, but most tourists might avoid travel to Egypt as it remains politically unstable most of the times. Energy prices. If energy prices go up, tourists will travel less both domestically and internationally. The reason is because the rise in energy prices, aviation fuel prices will also increase, thus making airfares costly. As a result, many tourists will avoid using flights as a mode of transportation in their travel plan. Also, the disposable income of tourists will be negatively impacted, hence making tourists travel lesser and lesser. Next is exchange and currency rates. Currency and exchange rates keep fluctuating, but if the fluctuation is big, tourists will avoid travel to expensive destinations like USA, Australia and the European nations. They might prefer going to countries which are comparatively cheaper, like a few Southeast Asian countries. You can name India, Thailand, Malaysia, etc. Public health issue. In case of an epidemic, tourists might be instructed by the respective governments or issue travel advisories not to travel to these certain locations. Tourists themselves might get scared and decide not to visit a destination because of health-related issues in such destinations. Example, recently there was Ebola outbreak in West Africa and the World Health Organization WHO declared an international health emergency. Consequently, a lot of tourists avoided travel to West African destinations. Tourist crowding at a destination. If a destination experiences tourist crowding, it will reduce satisfaction as the viewing space at many places like monuments, parks, etc. will be limited. It will cause discomfort and tourists will be negatively impacted when visiting such a destination. They might not return the next day or dissuade others from coming to that destination. Poor general environmental condition of a destination. If a certain destination is not well maintained, has glitter and waste issues, it will not be very attractive to the tourist. It will decrease the natural quality of the environment and tourists will not be motivated to visit that destination again. Inadequate facilities. Lack of adequate facilities like ATMs, banks, etc. can hamper the growth of tourist destination. Foreign travelers especially might expect basic facilities, and if these are not found, will be very disappointed with the destination and might not like to travel again to that destination. Connectivity issues. If a destination is not well connected by some modes of transportation like air, road, and rail, it will cause connectivity issues and tourists will not be motivated enough to visit that destination. So it is important to give due importance to develop all modes of transportation at the destination. Hostile attitude of local community. The tourist will encounter local community when visiting a destination. Sometimes the locals might not be happy with the influx of too many tourists and their negative impacts on the environment henceforth. If the locals show hostile attitude to the tourists, then the tourists might not be motivated to visit the destination the next time, even if they find the destination very attractive. Last but not the least are the set of travel motivations. Travel motivations can be considered the most important psychological influences of tourist behavior. Motivation is the drive to satisfy needs and wants of a person and reflect the inner state of an individual. There could be a lot of reasons which can motivate a tourist to travel and visit a destination. A tourist might decide to travel in order to escape monotony or stress, to relax with family, to attend a business trip, and so on. All these motivations could be divided into two categories: push factors and pull factors. Pull factors, these are the factors which attract potential tourists and instigate them so as to create a motive in them to travel and visit that destination. This helps to evoke a sense of deficiency in the minds of tourists and are external motivations. Example, an advertisement in print media about visiting Thailand with a big discount. Push factors, these are the factors which stem from the inner person which pushes him/her towards visiting a certain destination. This creates a sense of lacking within the persona and urges him/her to travel and are internal motivations. For example, a person's inner desire to visit wildlife in Sri Lanka because of the love for animals. Maslow's theory is the most popular and frequently used theory used to explain the concept of motivation. He said that human needs are arranged in a hierarchy, and when a particular need is satisfied, it stops being a motivator and the person moves on to satisfy the next higher need. Another important issue is the social contact between the tourist and the host. Social contact between tourist and host is defined as a personal encounter that takes place between tourist and host in specific places. It is very essential for tourists and hosts to interact with each other, as it can lead to long-term development of the tourist destination. Generally, there are three types of social contact that take place. 1. When visitors purchase products. 2. When visitors use the same place, attractions or facilities. And 3. When the two actors exchange information. In all of the above cases, the visitors and the guests participate to explore each other's culture and learn from each other. Though a brief and non-repetitive interaction, tourists will generally assume interaction with the locals to be positive. But when the tourists experience negative response, conflicting attitudes can occur towards the local people and at the destination. Therefore, social contact between both the actors is of vital importance. A destination can develop according to the type of social interaction between the tourist and host. Host will be more open to social interaction with the tourist if there are positive impacts at the destination because of tourists. The local community in such a case would be more interested in coming up with accommodation facilities, eateries, etc. at the destination. Conversely, if the negative impacts are more, then the host community will be very intolerant to the coming up of tourist infrastructure at a destination. This will ultimately affect tourist behavior at the destination, as it will be positive or negative depending on the tourist facilities they get and local response which they get from the host at the destination. Many times tourists could face problems at a destination due to behavior of locals at a destination. They might be subject to deceit, exploitation, fake stage experiences, hostility in rude behavior, etc. by the locals. This will in turn lead to tourists hating the destination or the locals, significantly impacting tourism of that place. Thus, the role of local community in developing a tourist region can never be underemphasized, as it through the support that tourism can flourish in that region. Locals' perception of social and cultural impacts of tourism development will affect major plans and policies of the government and other tourism stakeholders. by delivering positive impacts like enhancing local economies, new employment opportunities, additional tax receipts, foreign exchange, etc. Locals would be more interested in having positive interaction with the tourists, and tourists will also behave positively, seeing the hospitality of the host. There will be mutual understanding between both the actors, which will lead to opportunities for enhanced understanding and tolerance. When there is mutual understanding and tolerance, tourist influx will increase and the region will grow many folds as a tourist destination. So let us summarize. So students, with this we can close our discussion on tourist behavior. Remember, the term tourist behavior is relatively new term used in tourism psychology. It is closely related to concept of consumer behavior, which is about understanding how people make decisions when buying a certain product or a service. It includes decisions, attitudes, activities and experiences which are involved in buying and consuming tourism products and services. It also includes decisions that are taken before and after traveling. Understanding tourist behavior is important to know characteristics of a tourist, to know reasons for visiting a region, to know the decision-making process of a tourist, and so on. Tourists can be classified according to the environment bubble that they live in. Environment bubble means a similar living environment which a tourist stays surrounded by when traveling outside his usual place of residence. They can be organized mass tourists, individual mass tourists, allocentric, psychocentric, med-centric, etc. These help to know what products, service and facilities should be offered to certain tourists having the same behavior. Be it the organized mass tourist or the explorer or allocentric tourist, each type of tourist will have different attitudes to travel and different traveling styles. Hence, their decisions and their behaviors will also be different. There can be a lot of factors which influence tourist behavior and their roles in destination development and planning, like social factors, travel motivations, individual characteristics, social contact between host and tourist, etc. All these factors interact on a continuous basis and give rise to attitudes in which a tourist will basically give rise to behavior of the tourist. Understanding the behavior of tourists can result in tourism suppliers providing enhanced service to the tourists, be it in terms of better accommodation facilities, comfortable means of transportation, better amenities at the destination, etc. We are now ready to discuss a new concept of destination life cycle, which will also draw on some of the concepts that we have used in this module. Thanks for now. Thank you very much.